Tree houses or engage. Hello everyone, welcome to today's video, and I want to say a happy new year to all of you out there. I hope this will be a great year for all of you. But as for this video, today we're gonna talk about which of those two games are better, Fire Emblem Tree Houses or Fire Emblem Engage. And from one like myself who really loved both of those two games, for me it's a hard pick. I know there are lots of people that think Tree Houses was way better than Fire Emblem Engage, but I'm not quite so sure. I'm gonna split this video into three parts. The first section of this video will be to talk a little bit about the gameplay. That's the first part. The second part of this video will be talking about the characters, and the last part will be story. And there will be spoilers in this video, so this is your spoiler alert. And with all of that out of the way, let's get started. Let's start with one of the things that made people fall in love with this franchise to begin with, and that is the gameplay. Now, one of the things that I missed in Fire Emblem Three Houses was the weapon triangle. I really wish they kept that, because that made you think a little bit more of what you were going to do, in my opinion. I understand that they want to try something new with that and not use all the same things like previous games do. I'm not sure if there have been previous game that hasn't used that weapon triangle, but again, I was glad it returned in Engage. As for gameplay, both has its strong and downs, but I feel like that Engage is a little bit better when it comes to gameplay. I love the emblem rings that let us meet older characters like Marth, Sigurd, and some of those characters, because there are some of us who hasn't been able to play those old games and probably won't unless they remake them. So that was a really great for me to actually see those and play with those characters. And the second thing I want to mention is that the whole Engage thing is a really awesome thing. I know some of you wasn't a fan of it, but I like the Engage segment, and I also like from Three Houses that the heroes relics. Those are pretty awesome weapons in my opinion. As for gameplay, this round goes to Engage. The next part is with characters. Now this one is a bit more difficult, because as for the main characters, I feel like Violet is much better of a main character than Alera. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but Alera is not as good of a main character as Violet. I wasn't that big of a fan of him or her, depending on which one you choose. But I don't think they were bad, but I don't think they was that good either. They were a little bit in between. But what makes this more difficult is because all the characters that show up in both games. So those are some of those I also will focus on. Let's talk about first the three next rulers of Fodlan: Edelgard, Dimitri, and Claude. Each three of them are great characters. I think when they were trying to make those characters, they pulled no punches, or how they will be. I liked each and every one of them. Fun fact, when I first played Fire Emblem, I picked the Black Eagle and then the Church of Heroes route, which I regret, because after replaying it, I actually realized some fault with the Church of Heroes, which I'm going to bring up later. But each of those three characters are great. Edelgard, with her belief that the Church of Heroes is evil, is not completely wrong. Dimitri, with all of his trauma, make him a flawed character, but he learned to overcome that trauma and become a better person for it. And Claude, a master schemer that once was best, but won't hold anything back trying to get to it. All those three characters are great in their own way. I personally am more in line with Claude and Edelgard and I am with Dimitri, but I do like Dimitri nonetheless. Each of those three characters can for sure be considered much better than a lot of the characters in Fire Emblem Engage. And we can't forget all the other side characters in Fire Emblem Three Houses. Let's first start with the Black Eagle house. Each of them is a decent well character, if not a great character. The three favorites I have is Dorothea, Hubert, and Ferdinand. Three of the other characters are okay. The only one I didn't like that much is Caspar. I feel like each of them have great development. I feel like each of their personality really fits with the character and what the writers was going for, and again I think they're great. As for the Blue Lions, it's almost the same as the Black Eagles, except from in this house there's only one character I don't really like, and that is the character of Ash. I don't think the character is that great, but except for him, the rest of them are great. I think each of them is a well-written character. I like each of their personalities, and I like each of their story within the overall game. I also like that how their roles differ a little bit depending on which route you choose. And as for the Black Eagles, the thing with them is that they're loyal to the Empire, but they are two routes that are really different. You can choose Edelgard or the Judge of Zeros, but I feel like the Blue Lions route was the real route the developers wanted you to take. I'm gonna explain a little bit more about that later when I'm talking about the stories. And as for the Golden Deer characters, there's one character I don't like that much, and some characters I am pretty neutral about, but I do like a good number of them. The thing with them is that I like how free-spirited they all seem to be. Either in Blue Lions, either you like Dimitri or they hated Dimitri. I'm sorry, I said you, I meant they. But and as for Edelgard's route, that's the most you listen to Edelgard, because she's the boss until the very end. And in this house, it feels like more free-spirited than the rest of them, and that is something I like a lot about those characters. I like Leone, I like Raphael. Lawrence is a bit of a jerk, or maybe not a jerk, but have a really big ego in my opinion, so I'm neutral about him. Ignas is the character I don't like that much. But as for all the others, Marianne, Lynn, and Hilda, I think they're great. And as for the Knights of Zeros, I like a lot of the characters. There's one of them I really don't like at all, but I like most of the characters. And as for Rhea, she's a really great villain. I'm sorry for you who still think she is a hero or a good character, but I can't help but consider her a villain. I'm sorry if you disagree with me on that. But as I said, I like each of them. I like Manvala, I like Samir, I like Catherine, and I like Sarah, Flynn, and the rest. But then again, I don't feel like they hold that much up to the rest of the characters I mentioned earlier. in the three houses. Now, I want to give a quick mention to the Ashen Wolf characters. Now, here's the thing, I did not play the DLC of Fire Emblem Three Houses. I usually don't play DLC. However, I did end up playing with them a lot in Fire Emblem Three Hopes. I know a lot of you aren't that fond of that game, but that is where I learned a little bit about the characters. I think the characters are okay. I simply don't know enough to say if I like them or not. And a quick shout out to three of the supporting characters, Chorizo, Sophus and Gerald. Now, Chorizo I'm pretty neutral about, but I really like Gerald and Sophus. I think they're both good characters, and I don't think they're better than the house leaders, but I think they're good. Chorizo neutral about. Gerald I really like. Sophus I really like. Now let's mention the three main antagonists of Fire Emblem Three Houses. Now you heard me saying that don't consider Elga a villain. She's more of an anti-hero in my opinion, but she does have an antagonistic role in Fire Emblem Three Houses, and in the Blue Lion role she actually is the main antagonist. As for the two other, Talos and Rhea, I feel like those are the two real main antagonists of Fire Emblem Three Houses, and that's a good thing. I like both of them. Rhea could have been a really great, good force of nature, but she is someone that take belief too high. If you don't believe in the Church of Sarah and the Goddess, then you're not fit to be at her academy. You're not fit to be part of the Knights of Zeros. You have to believe in the Goddess to work for her, and you're less than nothing if you doesn't. And the whole crest system is something she come up with. And as for Talos, he's evil, pure and pure, but he's written great. His hatred for Rhea, no bounds, and I feel like he's really intimidating every time he's on the scene. So again, Rhea, Talos, and Edelgard, great villains, and a one anti-hero. And now let's talk about the supporting character of Fire Emblem Engage. And let's start with those who our main character first met, and that is Vander, Clanne, Frame, and one that he didn't first met but was in one of the parallel, those supporting missions, and that is Tien. Now, all of them are pretty forgettable in my opinion. The only one of them I can actually think is not as forgettable is Vander. I still feel like he's a little bit of a boring character, but he is a good person, and that earns him some point. All of them is technically good people, but they're so forgettable. None of them compares to the character in Three Houses, unfortunately. For the character of the Kingdom of Firene, I like most of those characters. Alfred and his sister are those that I like the most from that kingdom, but I also like the character Etie. I think she was a great character. Rest of them were mostly okay. Bocheron, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna bother pronouncing his name, but he was one of Alfred's retainers. I really didn't like that character at all. I felt like he was just too much of a crybaby, and again, sometimes that can work, but then the character have to be good. If the character's not good, then that aspect of their personality doesn't work in media. That's at least my opinion. But in the Kingdom of Brodia, it really took an 180 on me because I liked almost all of their characters. One of the characters I was a little bit neutral about, but that's not because I don't think she wasn't a good character. I just didn't care enough about her. But for some of those I really liked, it was actually the Prince Diamond and Alucard, who was great character. Amber is a great character. Jade, Lapis is, and Citrina was all great character. Yunaka was also one of my favorite characters of that game. Fire Emblem Engage. I really felt like they nailed it with the characters from this kingdom. Now, not all of them are perfect. Of course, what am I saying? None of them is perfect, but that actually helps make each of them work. For the character from Elusnia, those characters again is some of those I like the most in this game. There are some of them I really didn't like and some I didn't care for, but except from those two characters, I liked all of them. Ivy is by far one of the best princesses in the newer Fire Emblem games. Not the best, but she's definitely on the top 10 list. Hortensia is also decently well, since she's supposed to be this kid-like character, and she is a kid. Selkov and Kachu is great character. I really think they were done well. They're not some of the best characters in this game, but they are decently well. Rosaldo is the character I didn't like. I felt that I just couldn't connect with the character. Goldmary is a good character in my opinion. I like her a lot. And Linden is a character I didn't care about. But I like each of their motivation. I like that each of them rebel against the corrupted king. So in all, I like them all, except one. As for the character of Solm, I think each of them did decently well. I like most about how they are like the Black Evil, really free-spirited, and the design. The two best characters from this kingdom is Fogado and Timera. The rest of the characters are okay, not really bad, but not some of my favorite characters. The last three playable characters that I want to mention, and one of them isn't exactly playable, but he has such a big role on the story that I wanted to bring him with me, and that is Mark. But as for Malvier and Valet, I'm not sure if I pronounced that one right, but I think that all of them are doing well in this game. I'm not going to talk too much about each of them because I think each of them is self-explanatory. Malvi is really like Ivy, just with a different personality. The character of Valet is a character with two personalities, and that is one evil, one good, and she does end up redeeming herself in the end. And Mark is really one of the best characters in this game. I know he's not a new character, but the story with him is so great that I think he really did well. I think the character almost got a little bit better thanks to this game. It's hard for me to say it since I haven't played his original game, but I have heard a lot about them. But I'm not gonna talk too much more about those characters. And as for our supporting characters, we didn't have enough time for me to actually say if they're good characters or not. But I I'm pretty neutral. The best of the bunch is of course the character of Morion. I feel like he was done really great. Hey, and as for the rest of them, I like them. Then, but I wish we could have gotten a little bit more of them. Seen maybe a few fights in, have a few fighting section with them, that they fight with us against the enemy. But I understand why we didn't get it. And as for the villains, two of them end up on my top 25 villain of the year list, so I'm not gonna talk much about them. But as for the father Ivy, King Hysiat, I'm not gonna bother pronouncing, and Gris, and the character Gris, I think both of them are done great. I don't think they hold that much candle to other villains of this franchise, but I think they're great. One thing I want to say about Sapia and Sombron is that they are great villains. I know some of you don't think they are that great, but I do. So take that however you wish. I'm not gonna talk much more about those villains because again, two of them are really great. Two of them are they're good and they're great, but I don't think they compare that well to other villains previously. And now let's talk about the stories, and let's start with Tree Houses. Now, Tree Houses is a little bit difficult because since we have 4 routes, we have 4 stories to choose from. But before the time skip, we only have 3 until the end. And let's start with talking a little about the Church of Zeros route. Now, that route, terrible in my opinion. Not because we end up siding with Rhea and the rest of the Knights of Zeros, and as I said earlier, I think she is a villain. I said also that I regret that I picked that route the first time I played this game. But there's more to it than that. The route itself isn't that good, and it doesn't make that much sense. We end up having Seth being the one that is close to us, not Rhea. He's taken the role of her, which was almost like the same way when you have either Edelgard, Dimitri, or Claude being close to you. And we still have to end up fighting Rhea in the end and killing her. Those who selected in the dark should have been the main villains of this route, and Rhea should have been the character that was our second, the main character of that route, despite how much I think of a villain she is. As for Claude's route, it was better, but it still wasn't that good either. Mostly because how it set out in the end. I understand why they have to face off against Edelgard, but when it comes to Claude, he is technically from Amira, and the main and final villain of his story should have either been his brother or father from Amira. I plan on making a series of videos telling how I think Fire Emblem could become great TV shows, and I'm gonna explain more about this there. And as for Edelgard's route, it was decent, but not that well good. The problem with Edelgard's route is one is too short, and second is that again it comes back to Rhea. Yeah, that she's the one we end up fighting and destroying. But if you listen to all the conversation you have with Edelgard, you learn more and more about those who sit in the dark, who should be the main villains, but in the same time they aren't the main villain of Edelgard's road. Fighting them and the Church of Zeros should have been the final. I will take on both, but it doesn't end up that way. And as for Demetrius route, that is maybe the best one in the game. And I have a feeling that the creators wanted us to pick Demetrius route first. I can't confirm that, but it's a feeling. It's the most complex, most story-driven story of the four of them. Dimitri is maybe a flawed character, and I said it earlier, my line of thinking aligns a bit more with Edelgard and Claude. Not that I fully agree with those two characters, but it's a bit, I understand them a little bit more. As for Dimitri, he has a lot of darkness, and that is a big point of his route when it comes to post-time skip. Him dealing with that darkness and trauma inside him. It's one of the things that make the arc great, a great redemption story for him, and in this route you end up defeating the ones who sit in the dark before you take on Edelgard. That is the final villain of this arc. So I feel like his arc was maybe the best one, and that's the one I'm gonna use when I'm comparing the Fire Emblem Three Houses and Engage with each other. As for Engage, the story is pretty simple, but it's good. It's not the best story in Fire Emblem franchise, but it's far from the worst in my opinion. In some area it could have been much better, and in some area it could have been a lot worse if they went with some other direction. Overall, I think it was a good game with a good story, but as for Engage and Three Houses and Demetrius route, I have to say Three Houses has the better story when it's following Demetrius route, so I have to give this route to Three Houses. And by that, it's safe to say, in my opinion, that Three Houses is the better game of the two. I don't think Engage is bad, but I have come to the conclusion that Three Houses is better. And that's it for this video. Which one of those games do you think is better? Do you think Engage have better character than Three Houses? Let me know in the comment section down below. I hope to see you guys again next time.